On PM Express tonight, we are continuing the conversation on the new parliamentary complex, and we're asking the question to keep or to drop that chamber. And in the last few hours, we know that a crunch meeting by Parliament, its service board, has just ended. And that meeting was supposed to decide the fate of the new parliamentary chamber, and that has ended. We're picking signals that that plan of a new chamber has been taking off Parliament's agenda. What does that mean? Does it mean it's been dropped? The plan has been dropped? Does it mean it will be revisited? We'll get all the answers on PM Express tonight. Now, you know that the Economic Fighters League have vowed to meet what it describes as government's unpopular decisions with civil disobedience. What triggered this? And on Friday, you've been following all the events in Parliament. You know that members of this league, Economic Fighters League, its executives or commanders were arrested and released on Friday for disrupting parliamentary proceedings with their drop the chamber protest. How did this whole thing come about? And that plan to build a new parliamentary complex has generated a lot of controversy in the last few days, with many, including former Second Deputy Speaker of Parliament Ken Jurasa and the CDD, describing the whole plan of a new chamber as a misplaced priority. Now, the Parliamentary Service Board has already received architectural model for the new chamber from renowned Ghanaian architect David Frank Ajay, the same designer who designed the National Cathedral. Now, the 450-seater chamber will come with a chapel, mosque, restaurant, a museum. All of that. We heard the Speaker of Parliament last week explaining why we really need this facility, and that will replace the current chamber, which houses 275 seats for MPs at a cost of $200 million. Now, what does that mean to suspend or to take off the plan or the proposal of a new chamber of Parliament's agenda? And we are asking, does that mean it's been dropped? Or will it be revisited? These are the issues we are going to be interrogating on PM Express tonight. I'll be right back. Many thanks for choosing PM Express. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. My guest in the studio, Katie Hammond, is MP for Adanse Asokwa, and is a household name, you know that. Abiku Adams is commander of the Economic Fighters League. Good to see you, gentlemen. Honorable, I'll start with you. And just in the last few minutes, we've heard that the Parliamentary Service Board is done with its meeting, the crunch meeting, to decide the fate of the controversial new chamber for Parliament. We're hearing, and before we went into that meeting, we heard or we picked signals that it's likely that Parliament will abandon the decision. What we're hearing now is that Parliament has taken that decision off its agenda. I know you're not a member of the Parliamentary Service Board, but I'm sure you're privy to some of the happenings at the meeting which led to this decision. Maybe you want to share with us?
No. Good evening to all listeners. Hello to all of you. No, I'm not about to share anything with anybody. Number one, if only because I don't know. And that's what has actually characterized this matter of construction of the so-called chamber, which has become a topic of the day. What I've come here to do today is to put right the attributions that have been made to me, which I found extraordinarily scandalous. The last time when you called a young man here fighters, economic fighters, I don't know what
Economic Fighters League.
What they are fighting about, but the Economic Fighters League. Yeah. What happened in Parliament the other day, right, and the response to it by the general public. You accept that Katie Hammond is not a type to run away from his convictions and to own up to his responsibilities. I want joy because on the Friday that this matter transpired, I watched a clip on your news with Israel Lie. I wasn't so sure if you were presenting to the good people of Ghana what actually transpired. I heard your correspondent, Mr.
Joseph Gakpo.
Presented a very skewed account of what happened and the way the discussion then took place. I want you to play the full extent. It was a short one. If you have it, play it so that everybody listens, and then we could take it from there.
Yes, we'll get into that. We'll play that one, and you would get that opportunity to explain.
But the point I was making essentially was that leadership should come to Parliament and let us, all of us, understand. They should tell us. They should let us know. Because I think I'm one of the longest serving members of Parliament. If you're talking about seniors of the House, I should be one of them.
The Mugabes of the House.
Well, I'm not so sure about Mugabes, but we've been there for fairly a good while, and would have thought that at least we would know what was happening. I heard it the first time on the radio.
Okay.
About some,
as a member of Parliament.
You see, that's why I'm so upset about this whole attribution to me that is making all the rounds, of course, with this concomitant good dose of insults. I don't normally run away from the insults if I think that I play into a contest which deserves it. Okay. But on this occasion, I found it so extraordinary because my whole argument was that we don't even know about this. So, Chairman Sabusu, our leader, come to Parliament, explain to us what is happening. I haven't heard about it. The first I knew about it was about 2013, I think, when I think John Mahama, then president, I think made a statement to that effect that we would need
the feasibility study
to do proper Parliament, because we don't, it's a fact, we don't have what you would call a chamber of Parliament in Ghana. We don't have it. There is a structure, it's a temporary whatever that was done in 1992. That is what we use all along. But he made a point to that effect. Along the line, I think the then Speaker Banfuado also made some comment on that. I think then Speaker Joa Jaho also made a point about that. But the most concrete point that was, I think ever made, if I recall, was that which was made by the then president in the State of Nations address. That's all there is to this. Nothing has transpired. We haven't heard anything. The next I heard was comments on the radio that some parliamentary chamber was to be built and all that. My point, and reiterated, my point was that, look, get this thing out in the public domain, get it out in Parliament. I mean, how can you be building whatever that we don't know about it? Yep. What is it? Where are we going to get money from? Who did? I recall distinctly making the point that, well, how come that Parliament will be seeking to construct a chamber for itself, for Parliament, when the presidency, I mean, I haven't said anything about it. We don't control money. Yep. Of course, pairs, we approve it, but in its, how much the allocation and disbursement is not controlled by Parliament. How come that we are going to do all these things without some input from the presidency? Where is the money coming from? These were the questions I asked on the floor. Then as I heard, I had said that we should build it, and the Parliament, we are not sitting on the trees. Yes, I made a point. That was the introductory point I made. That, look, I know you tend to misconstrue things I said. So I prefaced my statement carefully when I know what the press is going to do with
and
this.
I remember you made that point, that the press may take you on that.
And so whatever it was that I thought they would understand and take me on in the context of what I was saying, not to misconstrue it to the extent that was presented, more so by Joy, and then ultimately the other members of the corps, the press corps. I mean, it's quite unfair. You owe it to the good people of Ghana, I mean, to make a proper presentation. You, my young friend here, you'll recall that after I started with all this statement, and let's get it clear. This is what I said. Parliament will not sit under trees. And that's clearly to convey the point that we do have a Parliament already. We are not in a rush to be housed under any other structure. We would get whether there's one construction.
Of course, the meaning has been mixed, probably the way you put it.
But if they had, the press had played the full gamut of the statement I made in Parliament. And those who were prone to misconstruing what I said.
I think we have that clip.
Let's come on and let the whole lot come in.
We'll get it and we'll play it along the line, and then we'll get a full meaning of what actually transpired.
Talking about what has happened today, again, I don't have any idea. I mean, I sit here. We don't go to Parliament today on Monday, so I don't know. You know, it's been unfortunate. You know what's happened about this. I just spoken to our leader, Oseche Mensah. For 20 minutes, he was also telling me about things he himself didn't also know, things that he didn't come to his knowledge.
And got to know today.
He was telling me today, but that apparently few things have been going on that the majority leader, even didn't know about. I mean, it's all been properly handled. We admit to that. If a decision was to be made by the government of Ghana, making presentation to the people of Ghana that there's a need for whatever, it should be properly made. I see, I'm upset because I sit here, I don't know what happened. I make a point and it's misconstrued and all these allegations are made against me. I mean, when in reality, if there was proper, if it was thought that there was a need for it, I would have thought that the means of communication should have come out rather clearly and distinctly.
Okay, so it's just clear because you're not the only member of Parliament I've heard saying this. There are a lot more of your colleagues who say that they really didn't know about this whole thing, and that's why people feel the whole thing was shrouded in secrecy. But you've also been holding a press conference today regarding your Drop the Chamber protest. What are the highlights of those press conference? The press conference.
In the press conference, we actually reiterated the same message we've been sending across to the Parliament and the good people of Ghana, that there's no pressing need for a new Parliament building to be built at this time in our national life, when we have many social, economic, and security issues in our country. We think that democracy should have qualitative impact, and we shouldn't be swept off by the quest to build fanciful buildings just for the fun of it. And if you're looking at the comfort of our parliamentarians now, it's one of the best in the world that we have no cause to complain about. The parliament was recently renovated at the cost of 110 million Ghana cedis, $110 million. Barely 5 years ago.
Which
understand? Job
recently
job
the chairs and the
Chinese. I mean, it was the Chinese.
$100 million. I'm hearing for the first time.
And then you have the job 600 building, which has been renovated. It's in the news. I mean, if you Google it, you can get $100 million.
Yes,
it's out in the news
for the renovation.
Yes. Then if you look at a job 600 building,
how much was
I'm hearing for the first time.
But do you know how much was used in the renovation?
Because if they argue that the so-called construction would have cost 200 million, and he said that the renovation cost 100, so much.
110 million.
110 million.
It's quite outrageous.
Right.
Well, no, there's a disconnect. Not outrageous. There's a disconnect. It couldn't be possible. I don't know, but I'm surprised that that is the figure.
But you're not establishing a disconnection. You're just alluding to disconnection.
How do you mean?
You're just making an allusion to a disconnection.
I don't know the facts. I don't know the facts. So I wouldn't be able to establish one way or the other.
Okay, Honorable. Let him make this point. We'll get to find out how much was used in that construction.
Then we went ahead to call on the Ghanaian people, the youth, to stand up at this time and question the leadership that we have. And it is something that we are asking for to be consistent. We must consistently interrogate the system so that we get the best out of it.
And that was your point.
Yes.
You also made the point of a civil disobedience to any plan by government to continue with this new chamber. We'll get to that, but I think we have that video of what really transpired in the House the day the members of the Economic Fighters League were arrested. Let's see that.
The honourable member sitting right to my left also did reiterate the point. Mr. Speaker, it's about this matter that the majority leader and the leader of the House has been impressed upon to bring to the House quickly for some sort of discussion to take place. And it's the question of the building of a new chamber of Parliament Mr. Speaker, number one, some of us don't even know if it is a stated policy that Parliament is going to be built. And indeed, who is taking the initiative? Is it Parliament really? Parliament chamber or building, Mr. Speaker, is not for members of Parliament. It is one of the significant symbols or maybe the building blocks of democracy. You won't have democracy without Parliament. And Mr. Speaker, I'm sure the President will take me on this. Parliament won't sit under trees. So, Mr. Speaker, this whole matter, I think, should be brought to the fore. Let it be debated, and then ultimately a decision one way or the other be made. Because we don't need that chamber. You want that chamber.
Now, other members, let's continue. That confirms exactly the challenges with the Advocate Hammond, please complete your...
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, so that, see, what happened was that our cameras moved and followed the arrest. But you yourself, I saw you raise your head, watch what was happening at the public gallery. So if you say Parliament will not sit under trees, what exactly did you mean by the...
Because we actually have a place. We actually have a place. We're sitting in Parliament now. So for me, it wasn't an issue that should immediately exact our attention. One way or the other, it's not like we were homeless, we were houseless, we were chamberless. We were not. If it has to be done at the appropriate time, whatever. You see, if you had then continued, if they had been there, because when I started, you know, I was a bit reticent, I was hesitant, I wasn't moving forward. If you had then had the opportunity of listening, and then went on and then made the point that I'm making, look.
Okay, what was the point that you were making?
But I've made them already. Made the point that we don't know anything about this. Where is the money coming from? Who is in charge? Has it been approved by the executive? Do we have money? When were all these proposals? Parliament does not know about this matter. Remember, it wasn't a full-blown debate. It was what we call, when the business committee has presented the business for the week, we are allowed to make a few comments on what we think should have been put into the business paper. So these were just brief exchanges to make sure that certain things are properly recorded, if need be, to remind the leadership. And this specifically was remind the leadership to bring it to the fore. Indeed, I think at the end of the debate, the majority leader made a point that he would expect us to debate this matter tomorrow, which is Tuesday.
Which is Tuesday.
So it was a fairly short one. You know, so I found it a bit difficult to comprehend that. Ultimately, I concluded, or I said, after I've made all these disclaimers, we don't know what is going on, what is that, and I said we should build it. They take the issue that, well, we have all sorts of difficulties in the country, and we're asking for a chamber to be built. I mean,
so now,
quite difficult.
Now that the Parliamentary Service is saying that it's taking, we're taking this whole thing out, I mean, off Parliament's agenda, will the debate come on tomorrow?
I'm not
so
sure. Let's get it tomorrow and see what it is. You know, it has been very badly handled. Let's confess.
That you admit.
It's been badly handled by all sides. I mean, how can you come up with the development of this matter that the members of Parliament don't know about? I mean, you might say this is an indictment on ourselves. So be it, you know, on the leadership. You know, I mean, everyone is complaining. What is it? What is it? What is going on? This is a national issue. You know, that should be, should have been, or probably should be. Let's wait and see tomorrow what happens. But see, my caution to the young guys, you know, calm down. You know, I was so conscious about, not only conscious, but also anxious about some of the pronouncements you made the other day on this television studio at Joy FM when you came in
after the arrest.
After the arrest, it wasn't you. wasn't you. And to your credit, I decided that I would share the platform with you. I wasn't going to share it with that other bloke. You know, it was extremely rude. It wasn't called for. You know, but you went that route, so I decided I would share the platform with you. There was something they said, they will bring 2 million people on the street. What for? Can you drag 2 million Ghanaians onto the street?
Well, you certainly agree that the argument that leadership of Parliament have advanced to actually justify this plan has angered so many Ghanaians.
I haven't said any such thing. I don't even know about the arguments advanced. You see, I'm saying that everything about this thing, some of us don't know about it.
And I'm saying that because we've been having interactions with members of the public, the argument and the justification of the plan itself has further angered people.
Some of which are
the fact that Osechi Mensah-Bonsu, for instance, describes children sitting under trees, that we used to have those ones before we built the stadium. We used to have that before we built the National Theatre. People are angered about that. You certainly don't want things to go this way. And that's why you were explaining that in Parliament, that we should take another,
we should discuss
the issue and then come to a better conclusion that all Ghanaians would want. But you genuinely, after listening to Ghanaians and all the problems we've outlined, the challenges we face, you genuinely believe that Parliament needs a new chamber now?
I have a very clear... I'm a conviction politician. I don't follow the crowd, and I always, the last time we were talking about right to information and all that, I stood up distinctly. You know, I had so many points of disagreement. In the end, it was agreed upon. On this chamber thing, remember, I said 2013, it hasn't come up since. You know, we've been going on, we're making a do with what we have. But in my heart of hearts...
Was that feasibility study ever carried?
I haven't, see, please.
It's still also the secrecy.
I absolutely no idea what... When the president made a point, I mean, we accept that sometimes in the life of a country there are some more important things than what I mean is perceived as. I mean, Parliament doesn't seem to be held in the great esteem in the scheme of things we have in the political dispensation, the democratic dispensation that we have in this country. The pillars of democracy are 3: judiciary, executive, and indeed the legislature. Without legislature, there is no democracy. Let's get this right. When the coup d'etats and all those things took place some time back, you recall that, I mean, whenever a day, Parliament dissolved, but there's executive, there's judiciary. Parliament almost invariably is the orphan member or branch of democracy. But without Parliament, this can be business. It's all not in the executive, it's not at the judiciary level, it's in Parliament. It's where we debate issues. Presidency would want Parliament to approve whatever is it for them. Judiciary would want Parliament is the focal point. I mean, for me, if you force the point, Parliament is the fulcrum on which democratic dispensation of every country revolves on. Without them,
but what's wrong with the current Parliament we have?
You haven't been there. Have you been there? You see, you're forcing me into whether we should have one. But let me put my view on record. I am saying that ultimately, again, you wouldn't press me to say whether it should be done tomorrow, today, or whatever. I don't know when it might not be done in my lifetime. It may not be done in my political lifetime. It may not be. My view, if you ask me, is that ultimately there must be a chamber of Parliament for the people of Ghana. Now, there's a good reason for that. I don't know the reasons that Seche mentioned and others have advanced for that. I have good reasons for that. What we have there was never thought to be a chamber for Parliament. Kwame Nkrumah built the Job 600 and the 2 conference centers that you have there. There's one which has been turned into social use, everybody uses this. That one was configured into a Parliament. It's a Parliament building. Until recently, all members of Parliament used to operate from the boot of our cars. We didn't have offices.
Now you have Job 600.
But now, thank God, we have offices. We didn't have offices. I mean, you expect me to do my parliamentary job, all the things that I would have to read and all that, we don't have offices. Now, that is one. We have it now, I've said, fortunately. Number 2, go to that building and see what you have is the skeleton. And I'm not talking about this atheistic beauty. That's not, I mean, I don't stand on ceremony. It's not a beauty. But I'm so upset with the chandeliers and whatever you have in the building. I don't like it. I keep asking, it's supposed to be Parliament. What is all this? We might rather have the acoustics, proper acoustics, not with this live. So that's not, but go there and see. Number one, we don't have places of convenience. The one or two that we have out there, you get in there, the visitors, the public, the journalists, they take it. You would want to rush into the loo and then come back and make a statement. You go in there, it's all full. You can't, the one or two of them have members of parliament. Go in there and see if there's any members of parliament is taking. We don't have a restaurant. The little place that we occasionally get some water or that, go and see. Press, visitors and everybody. It's so insecure. You have no clue what to do. I mean, it is not, I mean, when we talk about Parliament, and people are talking about comparing Ghana to Westminster Parliament, and who is talking about Westminster Parliament? You know, when it's a palace, that whole thing is a palace. The last time they decided that it needed a bit of a touch-up, refurbishment on it, they were looking for £4.5 billion to fix that thing there. Nobody's talking about that sort of thing. I'm quite happy to have a purpose-built parliament for people of Ghana to deepen our democracy, even if it contains 200, 300. I don't subscribe to all these 500, 450, 450 people because I don't even believe that Ghana is going to the point where we need what is our population like to require 450 members of parliament. You know, so my view is that find a time, go in there, have a look. Don't be excited about the chandeliers and all that, you know. And then look at, take the security aspect of it together. Look at, it's not so much our convenience. If you think we've come to Parliament, we don't have to be, we can be inconvenienced to any extent. And something had happened in Parliament. I wanted quickly to confer with one or two colleagues so that we know what to do. We couldn't have a place to discuss.
But listening to you and listening to the Speaker of Parliament and the Majority Leader, first of all, one of the reasons we're giving is the fact that the Speaker, there are pillars in the chamber that blocks the Speaker, so that when MPs, when MPs get up.
I'll stop you. I'm not being rude because I know this things. No, have you seen those pillars you're talking about? Go in there and see. They are actually pillars. They are structured because they are against the supporting columns or whatever it is. Some members actually literally sit behind it. In Parliament, you don't shout, yes, sir.
You have to catch the Speaker's eye.
How do you catch his eye?
And so many suggestions have coming that in this technological world, can't we resolve that problem, for instance, with technology? If you talk about places of convenience,
let's deal with this one. Don't forget your point. Make sure you don't forget. He's getting it wrong. He says cameras.
The cameras, the
how do you resolve this with cameras?
I'm saying that. I mean,
it's about being seen, right?
By who?
So by the Speaker. The Speaker is facing the screen.
We'll come to you. I'm happy to deal with it. Just give me 1 second. I want to.
Don't forget
but on
that.
this one, please.
Okay.
So, deal with it. Okay. You know, there's a pillar there. Speaker is supposed to be looking at. He looks up there, wants to see us, catch our eye. You are hidden behind the pillar. How does he see you?
And that's why people who are technological gurus say we can still resolve this issue with technology. Wow. Probably there could be something that could capture everything in front of the Speaker, so that whoever gets up in the chamber, the Speaker could see the person in his cameras. I mean, that can be resolved with technology. You are talking about
cameras on
most of the time
look at it. You're showing
most of the time these seats are empty. Many of the seats are empty.
That's a different matter altogether.
Okay, so hold it. Let's deal with the issues one after the other.
You've just also mentioned a couple of basically a couple.
The most important thing
of the reasons why we need Parliament for the Republic of Ghana.
One of them is places for you to do your research. Very important for the kind of mandate you have. And luckily, we have Job 600. That should resolve it. Looking at the resources we have as a country, couldn't we manage? You're talking about places of convenience. Would you agree? Would you agree?
No, don't drag me along this line. No, I wouldn't allow you because I'm not going to go along with this line. The point is made that ultimately, And if you talk about it, you think Ghana should remain like this in terms of our resources forever?
No.
We hope that one way or the other. Remember, when President Kufuor put up the the presidency, the Jubilee House presidency,
yeah.
I was around. Nobody talks about Kuyumpieni now. But NDC said that they were going to turn that thing into Kukobo. Ultimately, it actually nearly became a cemetery.
Okay.
But now everybody is enjoying it. Your mama went in there, he enjoyed it. It was at a time when there was a suggestion that Niska, President Kufuor said that, okay, let's see what we do. Some people benefited. I mean, those who were interested in the dispensation, the political, democratic dispensation of Ghana, decided to help us. I am actually told that some people, this parliamentary thing, some interested communities, countries, were going to help. Let me tell you something that happened on Friday. A professor of economics from the University of Oxford met a few of us Parliament on the Friday. I know what he told us. Ghana enjoys a peculiar advantage, and the reason for him is this. Ghana is big enough to be able to punch at a certain level on the international level. We are not too big to be considered as bullies by anybody. That is our selling point. They like us.
Honorable, I think you're actually dragging the whole issue.
Let me make my point.
Let him make his point. Abeku, let him make his point. I'll come to you. Abeku, hold it. Let him. Abeku, let him make his point, please.
You are not the host.
Let him make his point, and then let him make his point, and then I'll allow you to make your point. Honorable, please make your point.
See, this is the rudeness that I'm talking about.
Please make your point, Honorable.
When I finish, she will let you speak your mind. If she says I should stop, I will stop.
Honorable, please go
No,
ahead.
but I didn't interrupt you, abuse you.
Abeku,
I interrupted
please,
to make a point, to clarify a point.
Let's move on.
I asked you that you were making a
Let's move on. Let's
point.
have a calm discussion. Honorable, please go on. Make your point.
So what said was that Ghana has all these friends that they could ultimately come to our aid when it comes to the deepening of democracy in Ghana, because it becomes sort of an oasis of peace, of democracy among an arena of discord and cacophony. So the point I'm making is that we well may have received money from some other sources, which not necessarily money coming from the coffers of the exchequer of Ghana. You know, so this is the point. It's not, we will have so many reasons why we will need Parliament, but the point still comes back to this. Is it the case that Parliament should be built today, should be built tomorrow, should be built? I've made a point. It may not be built in my lifetime. It may not be built tomorrow. But ultimately, I personally speaking, for myself and for what I think democracy stands for, the legislature of Ghana deserves, a
better. But I've heard many people, and for some, it's not really the fact that it is bad to have a new chamber, but the timing they say is wrong. Sure. How would you feel as a member of Parliament? Sure. How would you agree, or how do you react to people who say that you want a very comfortable place to make legislation, whilst people sit under trees?
Young lady, see, you can develop this point to the extent that I've never made those points.
Not you per se,
but I don't think my colleagues are saying that whether we have money or we don't have money, construct it now. Nobody has said that.
Okay.
In principle,
I just heard Honorable Blake.
Okay.
To say what?
Yeah, Honorable Blake spoke about it, and he said that he should
saying something contrary to what you're saying.
He said what?
Hold on. Honorable Blake is no longer a member of Parliament. He can express his views.
What did he say?
He says that we really need the chamber now. That's what he says. He says we need it. He says we need it. But people are unhappy with Parliament. But okay, so let me come to you, Abeku. You've been wanting to make your point. Parliament says it has dropped or it has removed this whole new chamber proposal from its agenda. Are you satisfied?
Thank you very much. I will answer your question by going back to address some of the issues Honorable Katie Hammond raised. I'm actually surprised as the twist is given to his submission on the floor of Parliament. It's quite a very brilliant attempt to actually reinvent a new meaning to what he said.
What did he say?
If you look at the preface he gave to that phrase, he said, Parliament will not sit under the tree.
So what did I say? See, he doesn't even remember what I said. What did I say?
It's actually presupposes
exactly
that
what
he was aware
exactly what
he was going to say something very scandalous to the Ghanaian people.
What did I say? Going to say, or he said?
He was going. He just said he was aware that he was going to what he was going to say.
The media will take him on. I heard that one.
Yes.
But
why
exactly
would the
what
media
did he
take
say?
you on for saying something that will favor the people?
Will favor which people?
If you're going to, because what he said was actually preambled with by other things like Parliament, democracy Parliament is important for democracy, so ultimately you have to discuss these things, and after all, Parliament will not sit under the tree. Kind of thing. Okay. Saying that we actually need a place. That's the meaning.
Okay.
So I'm actually...
He's just explained what he said, that whether there's a new Parliament or an old Parliament...
It's a new meaning he's actually giving on this platform now.
He's just explained...
I've actually listened to the video many times, and this is what he's trying to do now is what they call damage control, and it's accepted in politics. So I don't fault him for anything. Right. Now he purports to be a campaigner for democracy, deepening democracy. Okay. My question is, what is the qualitative use of a new parliament for our MPs now? What will be the qualitative importance to our democracy?
He's just enumerated some of the reasons why we genuinely knew a new chamber.
And it is all, we realize that everything was limited to the comfort of the MPs and
like places of convenience
and them scoring international mark for being democratic. But the point is, we want our...
Not. You may say
they have maintained what they have.
Explain to you.
What they have, they can't complain about it. Because if you go to our senior high schools, if you go to our hospitals, if you go to public places, Ghanaians who are the employers of the MPs are using. Come on. You can't ask for more from Ghanaians. Maintain what you have. Give us what we need to be comfortable, to be dignified in this country. Then you can have what any other thing you have. Never place your interest above the people's interest. That's democracy. Democracy does not say that the MPs should put their interest above the people's interest. It's not acceptable. We don't allow that to happen in this country. Okay. You understand?
So now that Parliament has dropped or removed it from its agenda, are you satisfied? It is
actually still a rumor. I've not received a paper. I've not received any press statement that this is the position of Parliament, and we treat it as one of the grapevine news. Until then, we are still on our agenda of hammering that thing home that we don't need a new Parliament at this time. But let me finish.
So we would need it in future.
Of course, that's what we've been saying.
Okay.
That we don't need it at this time.
Okay.
And time is relative.
Okay.
It can be 100 years from now. So there's no point to take me on my phrase at this time.
Okay.
But looking at how Honorable is trying to school us on democracy and the pillars of democracy.
But Honorable himself has made the point that he himself doesn't even understand exactly what the whole thing is about.
That's why
he was calling for a debate.
That's an admission of, whatever he said, it's an admission of some level of disorganization, some level of dysfunctionality, even in our parliament, in our legislature. But if the majority leader of parliament could be on radio, defending all these things, talking about the need for new parliament, blah, 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 then another senior member of parliament, allegedly,
what do you mean allegedly? Listen,
why is it allegedly?
Because I don't know. Because I don't know.
But he's been in parliament for a long time. So you can address him as senior because he's a senior member of parliament.
I don't know.
Have you not been in this country?
I don't know.
I think allegedly is wrong because he's been in parliament for a long time.
I'll take back that word.
So you can address him as a senior member of parliament.
It's also claiming ignorance of such an important issue. Then, believe me, it means that communication within the parliament, leadership within the parliament is questionable. And that alone adds to the urgency of what we are calling for. But you know what? Honorable cannot sit on radio, on TV, and educate Ghanaians on democracy, educate us about his commitment to democracy and looking to deepening democracy. How can he deepen democracy when the quality of life of the people is in shambles?
Are you also interested in deepening democracy?
Of course, yes.
You are. That's what
Yes.
you've been championing.
Yes.
What you did in Parliament the last time, and you were at the public gallery, and you screamed from the public gallery. Couldn't you have done it through procedures? I mean, there are better procedures to voice out your grievances.
If those procedures,
was that the right thing to do?
If those procedures were effective, could have used it. But
How?
Our experience with Parliament made it expedient to adopt a new procedure. And I'll give you a very critical example. You know what? In our Constitution, Article 97(1)(c) tells us clearly that if an MP absent himself from Parliament 15 times without justifiable reason, legally is no more an MP. A report was released, and in this report, you can see that the Honorable K.T. Hammond, for the first session of Parliament, absented himself 17 times.
And do you know whether he wrote to the Speaker
it says
or
without
explained?
permission? That's the research.
Really?
So he has the right to actually challenge it. Another.
Challenge him.
Okay.
That is not serious.
Let me finish.
Okay.
He had the temerity, he had the effrontery to say to me that I was deviating
19 times.
He said I was deviating
legally,
and I was talking about irrelevant.
Legally.
What are the relevance?
Let me make my point.
Just a minute. You will land, then I'll come to, then you
I
respond.
don't have time for him.
Odikro published this report.
Okay.
It's a credible organization. The fighters at the Economic Fighters League took this document, petitioned Speaker of Parliament to bring these absentee MPs to book. Because by the Constitution we are using, that they are seeking and purporting to be deepening and protecting democracy, they have actually violated the ethics, the principles of democracy.
That's why you think they don't need
Their
a new
position should be
chamber?
vacant by law, according to our Constitution.
That's why they don't need a new chamber?
That's why I think the Honorable K.T. Hammond is not the right person to educate this country about deepening democracy. He's not an example to the young people.
He's not a plot. He lost completely.
You understand?
He lost the plot.
I think we should stick.
Well, he's not prepared to stick to that.
Go ahead.
But let me just tell you.
Besides,
there's a complete dislocation in his own logic. Complete breakdown in his
the
logic.
Parliament we have now is most of the time, half empty. It's most of the time half empty.
Yeah.
The question is, the reasons they are ascribing to the need for a new Parliament is not justifiable in any way.
Okay.
In the faces of one, their attitude in Parliament itself as MPs.
Okay.
Then again, in the face of the realities of the Ghanaian life, the quality of life Ghanaians are enjoying in this country. So if you ask me about the procedure we use, this is an example. The Parliament
is wasting time on this. The text that he quoted, says if they are absent without cause. You haven't asked the Speaker whether there was cause, and you are propagating this foolishness.
Honorable, let me just open the Constitution and read it so that.
But we know you read Article 97(1). We know about that. It's the same also in the standing orders of the Parliament.
Yes.
That one is clear. That when MPs absent themselves, but I'm saying that, have you checked that the MP did not seek permission from Parliament?
It's a very credible document. From Odikro.
Odikro said,
if I'm wrong, Odikro is wrong.
Okay, Honorable.
I just made a point. I'm not going to waste my time on things he doesn't understand.
So we have to petition the Speaker to declare
you absented yourself with...
No, but I don't even know what he's talking about.
Okay.
He's checked the figures, he's written something, written by name.
I don't know. You can have it.
Listen, be careful. Don't mess about with me. Don't do
Okay, Honorable.
You're going to print something on this and you say, well, I can have it. You are not a clerk of Parliament. You don't know the procedures of Parliament. You, by your own admission from what you quoted, now you want to go to whatever, you paraphrase, that is fine. You must have a reason not to have been there. Have you checked whether...
we don't have much time. I don't want us to deviate from the discussion.
We're not seeking permission from the Speaker.
Okay, so you are making the point that...
There are times that the person is actually in there in Parliament and doing some other things in his smart absence. It's not brought to his attention.
How that does happen? Does that happen?
It has happened.
Okay.
But some things do happen in there occasionally. You know, somebody gets out. Mr. Speaker, I was here yesterday doing what happened?
Then they correct it.
All sorts of issues have come up with it. You
Parliament.
parade this. You know,
Okay.
This has been in public domain for a long time.
So I know,
Honorable,
I know that this is not actually what you want. You don't want, and this decision that has been taken by the Parliamentary Service Board perhaps is because of the pressure that has mounted on the Parliamentary Service Board and Parliament as a whole, and that is why this decision has been taken.
If you
so what does this decision mean? I mean, as a member of Parliament, that Parliament is now taking this off its agenda.
Wrong about that. There was never a decision anyway. I keep saying that there was never a decision.
I mean, just this evening, we're hearing that the Parliamentary Service Board says they are taking this off Parliament.
Because see, from what I have come to understand, at least from what the leader told me, it was all discussion, and then somehow it got into public domain or whatever. I'm not so sure that there was a concrete decision taken to construct this. So if following, as you said, the rancor, a decision has now been made that, well, we wouldn't even continue with the discussion, or we will suspend it for the time being, continue thereafter. I mean, let's listen to the leadership tomorrow. I mean, let them tell us. I know if this matter comes to the floor, again, we would raise this matter. When was the decision actually taken? What actuated the decision to come out with the idea of the construction? What went into it, and then what happened? I mean, eventually, I think in the fullness of time, all this will come up. Speaking for myself, I'm not sure what has gone into it, what has been said now. It just, there's something that I concede, and all the expletives and the vituperations that is just churned out, something that I concede, that there has been there has been proper communication in all of this, that I'm prepared to concede. But as I'm not, I may have been there, he thinks I haven't been there for, I'm not a senior member of Parliament, but I mean, I think for some of us
35 times.
Please let him make his point. Okay.
From Parliamentary permission.
Please, let him make his point. I didn't allow him to interrupt you. Honorable, please go on.
He's as rude as his other. It doesn't get us anywhere. He's a young man. I keep telling you, listen, be careful. You want to be a member of Parliament. You want to be a politician. You want to be a member of Parliament. You want to be a member of Parliament.
Let's stick to the Ghanaian interest. Forget about me.
Let's go on because we don't have much time.
You also want to say.
I'm serving here. I'm making sure that
if you had the opportunity to come back with this, if the Parliamentary Service Board had the opportunity to come back with such a facility or a proposal, how would you want it done properly?
Don't let us go back and repeat it. I have put on record that Ghana would need a chamber worthy of our political dispensation.
Exactly.
The same way we have the executive, the presidency, we have the judiciary, Parliament should have one.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, the legislature should have one. Because what is there really? Go in there and see, and it's not. So what I think in the end would have to be done is that at the fullness of time, and I keep using that phrase, the decision, yes, it's not a question of concepts. You should be able to buttress it by physical cash. Somebody should explain where we're going to get the money from.
Okay.
Is there some donor funding, some whatever? When would it be done? I mean, is that time appropriate? If you're talking about the appropriateness of it or the appropriate time, what is it? When it comes back on the floor, the first thing we will be asking to find out, would we have the money?
Okay.
I mean, if you don't have the money, you can't do it.
But how would you respond to people who say you're asking for too much? Because recently you had Job 600. Recently, the chamber you are in. The chamber you were in was refurbished. We have new carpets, we have new chairs, and all of that. And so if there are defects, they could be fixed through renovations instead of a completely new
what
chamber.
What we're talking about is not a question of renovation. I mean, it's internally defective. It's the kind of thing we're talking about is not what you can remedy by fixing, touching bits here and there. You can make a do. That goes back to the point that I make, that Parliament would not sit under trees.
Okay.
Because we have something. We are making do with what we have.
Okay.
Yeah, but if the proper one comes to be built, it should be built properly. at the time of somebody's choosing. Not me, he who, I don't have the money. And whoever has the money, if they think that the appropriate time is up and they have the money, they should. I'm not the one to go out there, in spite of the point that I've made, that as a matter of principle, Ghana should have its parliament. I'm not the one to say that we'll start it today.
Maybe you're not explaining to Ghanaians well the good reasons why we need the parliament, because hearing from you right now, well, I know about this pillars you're talking about. I know about the places of convenience and all of that.
He believes that his
maybe
group,
if we understand you better.
No, that is fine.
Ghanaians think that
let him make his point, then I'll come to you. Let him make his point.
No, you make a point that if it is explained better, that's what I have tried to discuss all this evening. That some of us were not even in the know. We didn't know how this thing came about. You are right about that. I don't have any difficulty at all that if the leadership, and we have leadership. I mean, it's because I've been there all this, it doesn't mean that I'm leadership. Leadership are those who have actually been appointed as leaders. Leadership have come out and made the point that, well, A, B, C, D. First, some of these things are discussed in conclave. Parliament, closed doors, and then A, B, C, D. Well, is that the right thing to do? Well, let's see how you go about it. Have you sought the permission of the presidency? I mean, is everybody aware and all that? And then, obviously, this matter comes up. If it comes up and then good people of Ghana says, no, no, I mean, there's nothing that you can do, you know. And so, for me, the appropriate thing should have been done. It wasn't done. If the matter comes up again and it is not feasible, at this time they have the money, donors or government of Ghana would contribute this and how much it is, how much some of us didn't know. I mean, even the site, it was belatedly that somebody pointed out to me that this was the place.
So do you agree that we should fix some of the urgent problems before we come to think of a new
urgent problems where?
For instance, children who are still sitting under trees.
We have myriad of problems that we hope that ultimately we'll be able to fix. So if your question is that fix all of those things before you do parliament in Ghana, I'm on record. I'm on record as saying that parliament is needed. As to when, I can't be drawn on it. And I don't know when the problems, as you suggest, you know.
But you're a member of parliament, you should know.
Come on, what do you mean by member?
You make the laws.
You see, again, this location, making the law is not solving the problem.
But you were elected by your constituents
to make the laws.
If the laws are not to solve problems, then why do you make them?
Just a minute. Let him make his point. I'll come to you, and then you conclude on that.
To do what? We make the laws. Don't do this and this and that. It is buttressed by money, physical money. Parliament doesn't devote, but executive approves the money or apportions the money for ABC under the constitution. We then have to approve.
But you're supposed to champion that cause. If you don't bring the problems of your constituents and push it, the executive will not do anything about it.
You are making, please, my dear sister, don't get this mixed up.
Okay.
Members of parliament ask hundreds of questions in parliament every day.
Okay.
They are telling the executive there are problems here. The executive says it's a national cake.
Does it end with just asking questions? You need to push further.
Listen, let's be realistic. There's a limit to which you can push a human being. There's a limit to which you can push the presidency. There's a limit to which you can push a minister. I mean, what can you do? Physically, what can you do? Can you break him up?
One limit is saying
wait a minute. Let me deal with it. What can you do? The issue is that you need roads in your constituency. I need roads in my constituency. I go to the minister, I write, I petition, I ask questions, I do whatever I do. The minister ultimately says, we need money to do this. The minister, I can't physically do it myself. But the one that my common fund can do, at least speaking for myself, I sorted them out.
But when members of parliament or ministers are using V8 and all of that,
not a matter that we come to discuss
and their constituents,
you should be careful about it. Democracy tends to be expensive. You need executive.
Not at the expense of the people's quality of life.
You need judiciary. You need the legislature. You know, you don't know the condition of service of all. There are only few people who can do this. We can't go back to the Greek time of the Greeks when we have the amphitheater, where the whole country. We've gone past that. Now, a few people would have to represent the nation. You know, so if you keep on saying that it is true that you look after the welfare. Now, talk about myself. I mean, I've been in Parliament for as long as I've been. You think the people of my constituency would be electing me if I hadn't done anything?
That's how time will allow us, and we'll monitor tomorrow and see how things pan out. But briefly, you have a demonstration coming up on July 13th. Or,
yes.
Now that it's been taken off the agenda of Parliament, will it still come on?
You still make it look like we've been communicated to that they've taken it off. I keep
we are hearing from credible sources that it's been taken off Parliament's agenda. Okay.
So we need an official statement, and they are using the word suspended, which implies a temporary action. Okay. We are not looking for a temporary action. We want it to be dropped completely. Let's focus on important things. Honorable was talking about we can't solve our problems. There's level of reasonableness in democracy. Okay. There should be that level of reasonableness.
So you will still go on with your demonstration.
Yes.
I want to thank you very much. That's all time will allow us. Honorable Communitary Hammond is MP for Adansi Asopa, and Abeku Adams is commander of the Economic Fighters League. Thank you so much for watching PM Express. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Enjoy the rest of our program.